Good morning and welcome to the Friday edition of the show Inside Nigeria. Thank God it's Friday, March 21, 2025. I'm your host on the program, Winifred Ugbebo. The emergency declaration by President Bola Tinubu is still gaining traction in the public sphere with the papers we have on our menu today, leading with our story. Yesterday, the National Assembly, both the upper and lower house, actually gave backing to President Bola Tinubu's declaration of emergency in Rivers State. And this is what the papers are saying this Friday, starting with Nigeria's foremost Friday newspaper, Leadership Friday. Let's go there and see how leadership captured it. Emergency rule in Rivers, NASS backs Tinubu, Niger Delta leaders kick. Senate reps adjust terms. Tinubu's action is stabbed in the back. Pandemic. President commends lawmakers for support. Leading story on Leadership Friday, this Friday, and also leading story in other papers we have on our lineup. But let's continue with that of Leadership Friday. Federal government to appoint ambassadors order soon to Minister of Foreign Affairs. CDS military not lawless, says Defense Headquarters. Obviously, this is in reaction, in response to what obtained at Eco Disco Company, where military were said to have invaded the premises of Eco Disco Company and brutalized staff. The Defense Headquarters says CDS military not lawless. The story runs on page 6 of Leadership Friday. We move over to Leadership Gold Standard Awards Picture Series, and today's ship say to the Vice Chairman Leadership Group Limited, Mike Okwere, presenting Bank of the Year 2024 award nomination letter to the Chief Executive, Stanbic IBTC Bank, Wole Adeniyi, while Director Leadership Group Abraham Ndazaya looks on during a visit to Stanbic IBTC Bank headquarters in Lagos. And the response to that award, the Chief Executive Stanbic IBTC Bank, Wole Adeniyi, says this recognition will motivate us to do more. Congratulations to Stanbic IBTC. Still on leadership, beside the masthead of Leadership Friday, government key Mieti Allah leader in Plateau. What is happening? A few months ago, the leader in Nasarawa was also killed. From that, we move to above the masthead of Leadership Friday. We have advertorial actually from First Bank. It says 25% oversubscription of First Holdco's 150 billion naira rights issue paves way for 350 billion naira private placement. From that, we move to the page 3 of Leadership Friday, where we have our permanent stand, and that is our stand, and it is alleviating the plight of Down syndrome patients. Alleviating the plight of Down syndrome patients. Today's stand on Leadership Friday, as the world marks Down syndrome day today, with this year's theme, improve our support systems. It is imperative that we in Nigeria confront an uncomfortable truth. Individuals with Down syndrome remain among the most marginalized, discriminated against, and underserved members of our society. The theme is not merely a suggestion, but a desperate call to action that demands urgent attention from government, institutions, and citizens alike. It is a reminder that awareness without corresponding action amounts to little more than performative empathy. Let's look at the conclusion part of that stand today on Leadership Friday on Down syndrome patients. It says, on this World Down Syndrome Day, we call on all Nigerians to reject complacency and confront the uncomfortable realities faced by our fellow citizens with Down syndrome. They are not objects of pity, burdens, or sources of shame. They are all full members of our human family, deserving of dignity, opportunity, and respect. Our society is judged by how it treats its most vulnerable members. Currently, Nigeria faces woefully short. Let March 21, 2025 mark not just another day of awareness, but the beginning of concrete, sustained action to ensure that people with Down syndrome can finally claim their rightful place among us as equals. Today's stand on leadership, that is the collective stand of the paper for the day, and it is on alleviating the plight of Down syndrome patients on this World Down Syndrome Day. From that stand, we move to the back page where we have conversation with Azu. Azu Isiekwenene is the editor-in-chief of Leadership Newspaper Limited. And of course, he's joining the fray on the River State emergency declaration. His conversation today is on that note, River State emergency rule, a different view. Of course, you want to find what his views are on the matter. But in quotes, a common point of agreement is that a civilian president should never have to declare emergency rule. Well, a River State emergency rule, a different view, coming from conversation with Azu Isiekwenene. Just before we leave the back page, let's look at what Ghana Must Go is saying. News reps to investigate conditional cash transfer payments. News. And guess what the reply is? To recover their 705 million donations. Well, for more, log on to the website of Leadership Friday, www.leadership.ng. From Leadership Friday, next is The Punch. The Punch says Rivers emergency rule. National Assembly backs Tinubu as Fubara counters president's allegations. The story runs on page 4 and 45 of the paper. Suspended governor blames Wike. South governors oppose Tinubu. Ibas warns pipeline vendors. We have the picture too. It's the leading story of the CNG tankers explosion yesterday that took place on Karo Bridge in Nyanya area of Abuja. Tinubu orders victims treatment. Death toll hits 10. Abuja explosion. Tinubu orders victims treatment. Death toll hits 10. Federal government panel reconvenes Monday over Naira for crude crisis. Elia fumes as bandits kill 2 soldiers, orders in Benue. Federal government pardoned 4,000 prisoners, saved 1 billion naira on feeding, coming from the minister. Federal government pardoned 4,000 prisoners, saved 1 billion naira on feeding. From that, we move to the last story on the cover of the Punch. APC backs Tinubu as Atiku, Obi, El-Rufai intensify coalition talks. The story is on page 45 of the Punch. It's on that note we bring to a halt the review of front headline stories on the Punch newspaper this Friday. For more of these stories and inside stories, don't forget to log into the website of the Punch newspaper. Moving away from the Punch, we move to the Vanguard. Vanguard is also on Rivers crisis. Anger as NASS approves emergency rule with voice vote. Anger as NASS approves emergency rule with voice vote. Proclamation needs to third majority vote of lawmakers for approval. Approval done with unanimity without a single nay. Akpabio. 64 senators signed attendance register, quorum not formed, sources. Akpabio Dixon clash over point of order. Dixon, Tambuwa, Abaribe orders storm out of chamber. Lawyers Obi fought proclamation process. Well, it maybe let me just intervene here. Of course, they're supposed to have a two-third quorum of the Senate, but that was not what happened, according to the kicker here underneath the leading story. Sources, that is Vanguard sources, say that it's only 64 senators out of 103 or 104 senators thereabouts in the National Assembly that were actually present yesterday. That means a quorum was not formed. Dixon, Tambuwa, Abaribe orders storm out of chamber. Lawyers Obi fought proclamation process. Rivers administrator reads riot out to troublemakers. Atiku, Obi, Amechi, Fayemi, El-Rufai orders reject emergency rule in Rivers. Tinubu has stabbed Niger Delta in the back. Pandev. South governors reject emergency rule. However, the governor of Edo State, Senator Modi Okpebholo, distanced himself from the South governor's stance. These are kickers to the leading story today on the Vanguard. Rivers crisis. Anger as NASS approves emergency rule with voice vote. The story runs on pages 8, 9, and 10 of the paper. Still on Vanguard, you says alleged support for Boko Haram unproven to gap, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Local content stimulates economic transformation, NCDB, as Pandev orders Lord Vanguard over conference. Emefiele's trial, court rejects EFCC's request to file additional evidence. And in sports, expect rugged physical display from us through Trust Ekong. And on that note, we conclude review of front headline stories on Vanguard this Friday. Don't forget to log into the website of Vanguard newspaper for more of the story and inside stories. From Vanguard, we move to the next paper on our lineup. Of course, incidentally, this paper does not have the Rivers Crisis trending story as its main cover, and that is The Guardian. The Guardian says thrones for hire, how politics corrupt process 10 traditional institution royal stools. It's a big story. The Guardian has big story every Friday as its main lead. Thrones for hire, how politics corrupt process 10 traditional institution royal tools. Today's big story on The Guardian. Report hinges failure of public water services on corruption negligence. NASS faces backlash over state of emergency approval. Fubara denies culpability. Absence of Nigerian envoys not affecting foreign missions. Tuga assures. Expert laments rising use of synthetic drugs among youths. 2027, Ganduje minister dismissed Atiku Obi El-Rufai coalition as failed gang up. From that, we move to the stories just beneath the masthead of The Guardian. Salary review for political office holders underway, says ROMAFC chairman. For peace, Pandev advises Tinubu to reverse Rivers emergency rule. And Natasha alleges, still on the Natasha Senator Akpabio's crisis. I endured Akpabio's sexual advances for over a year, Natasha alleges. Is on that note, we bring to a halt the review of front headline stories today on The Guardian newspaper. For more, log on to the website of The Guardian. From The Guardian, we move to the last paper we have on our lineup, and that is Blueprint. Blueprint also has different story as its lead. It says with $14 billion investment from India and others, Tinubu has made life easier for Nigerians, coming from the federal government. With $14 billion investment from India and others, Tinubu has made life easier for Nigerians, federal government. Over 200,000 backlogs of passport applications cleared, coming from the Minister of Interior, Tunji Ojo. Country's image now redeemed abroad. Tuga administration encouraging free speech, healthy opposition. The Minister of Information and Orientation. NASS okay state of emergency in Rivers. Tinubu lost lawmakers. Opposition rejects proclamation. Launches coalition ahead 2027. Flutterwave partners FROS to revolutionize tax payment. Benue headers attack in Jato Aka leaves 4 dead, 2 soldiers injured. Murphy to bridge Nigeria's huge housing deficit with 250 billion naira capital. Core members to receive 77,000 naira allowance effective March. DG. Defense headquarters says we are not aware of northern communities' peace deal with bandits. That takes us to the stories just beneath the masthead of Blueprint.